Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful Reading with Your Kids studios in the beautiful Reedville section of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so excited that you are joining us today. We have a fantastic guest coming to us from the Netherlands, the author of Captain Green and the Plastic Scene. Her name is Evelyn Boekeless. Hey, this is Jed Lee. You know, for years, I struggled to get back to a healthy weight. I had been an athlete all throughout high school and college. And then when I got into the real world and had a job as a social worker, well, I got to tell you, I just forgot about exercise, and I ate my way to a very, very unhealthy life. It would have been so much easier for me to get back to that healthy lifestyle that I loved in high school and college if I had a tool like Chronometer. We're really happy that the folks at Chronometer have decided to become sponsors and supporters of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. And you can find out all about their great product at our website, readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. I mean, this is a great, great tool. It's a really great tool. It helps, not only does it help you track your calories and help you track your exercise, but it also helps you track your nutrition. You know, you're just going on a diet and reducing calories. It's not the right way to go. You need to make sure that you're still having the right amounts of nutrients and proteins and the mix and all that kind of stuff. That's why Chronometer is so very useful. It's really easy to use. It helps you track 60-plus nutrients for 200,000-plus foods. And like I said, it lets you log your diet, your exercise, your biometrics, put notes in there. It helps you make custom foods and recipes. It even has a mobile app so you can log on the go. You can check it all out and also check it out for free at our website, readingwithyourkids.com/fitness. Joining us right now from Alkmaar in the Netherlands. We're really excited to talk about this book. The name of the book is Captain Green and the Plastic Scene. Please welcome to the show, Evelyn Boekeless. Evelyn, how are you?
I'm very good, Jed. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
The first thing we should talk about is what Captain Green and the Plastic Scene is all about.
Well, this story is all about a new superhero called Captain Green, who's fresh out of superhero school. He's essentially a kid, and hopefully that makes him very relatable for children reading the book. Mm-hmm. And he finds himself on a major mission, and he is ending up saving sea creatures from plastic. He meets a dolphin in danger, and then goes on to find a seagull in trouble and a turtle, and they've all been hurt in some way by plastic, and he suddenly finds himself on this great adventure where he's just trying to solve this horrible problem. And he tries his best with all his enthusiasm, and fresh out of superhero school, he really wants to fix this. And he uses all his superpowers, but eventually he learns that the problem is too big for him to solve on his own, and he needs everybody to help. And he comes up with a way to share a positive message that will get everybody on board. And the story ends in a way that it has lots of hope for the reader, and I certainly don't want to scare young children with this real problem we have in our world. And it inspires them to want to make a difference, and it shows them that actually you don't need superpowers to save our seas. It just takes a superhuman. And by us all doing little changes in our lives, we can make a big difference.
Yeah. And that's a really, really important lesson, I think, for kids to understand. And that was certainly something that I had a really hard time with, probably up until recently. You know, I was one of those people who was going to save the world and really make a big splash, and not understanding that it's the little things that we absolutely have the power to do that can make huge differences, not only in our lives, but in the lives of all the people around us.
Yes, that's a very good point. Sometimes people can feel powerless when they see how what big environmental issues we face in our world. But actually, we can all make a huge difference if everybody makes very little changes that aren't difficult and don't make our lives all that much harder. We can turn this around, I believe. But so many times it's easier to just, grab a plastic bottle of water when you're out and about and bring your own with you. But I find that when I certainly started making more and more changes in my life, it just becomes very natural and easy to do. And all these little steps that we take, suddenly they just become more and more frequent. And then we are changing the world in our own easy ways. It doesn't have to be something, really massive that we're doing.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I'm of the age where, the idea of buying bottles of water to drink is crazy, because growing up, you could just drink water out of a fountain or a bubbler, or, it's just the idea of buying water was crazy. But it's become such a huge problem, not only with waste in the sea, but it's filling up landfills. It's cluttering the streets, and I don't think we all oftentimes just understand how big a problem it is.
Yes, absolutely. And that's it. Sometimes out of sight, out of mind, especially if people are living in areas that are particularly clean. They don't often realize it. And for me, if I can talk about maybe my inspiration for this story, I was hit really strongly by plastic pollution when I was on holidays, when I used to live in Singapore not so long ago. And we spent some time on a beautiful island off Singapore that belonged to Indonesia. And not far from our hotel, as I was walking along the beach on this beautiful day, gorgeous holiday, but suddenly the beach was terribly polluted with plastic, everything from bottles to flip-flops to all sorts of bits that had been washed from all over onto the beach. And it really struck me and made me so sad. And I've been aware of this problem for many years, but it just really struck me on that walk. And I decided there and then that I really wanted to take some positive steps to try and help in my own way. And being a primary school teacher myself, I felt that through education I could reach lots of children. And also having been working at trying to get published as a writer for many years, I felt that this story was one I felt incredibly passionate about and wanted to tell. And on that walk, I, had the rough idea for the story, and I thought a superhero hopefully could help to both engage children and bring about the change that was needed, at least fictionally, in the story.
Yeah, you've had you've certainly had a fascinating journey. You are, as you mentioned, you're a primary school teacher, and you've taught, not all over the world, but in a good-sized chunk of the world.
Yes, that's right. I've taught in London initially, actually. And then I lived in Hong Kong and Singapore, where my husband and I both worked in international schools and had a great time and saw lots of the world. And was inspired to write this book and got published, which is amazing. And only recently, in the last 6 months, we decided to move closer to home and now live in the Netherlands. So we're definitely travelers, but we're very ready now to put down roots and raise our family here.
Now, do you find that the interest in pollution and in the environment, is it different in different parts of the world? Is there different levels of awareness, especially among young children?
Yes, definitely. That's an excellent question. And I guess I've seen that firsthand, having taught in schools in different parts of the world. I guess I was quite shocked overall when I lived in Asia, in Hong Kong anyway at first, because there didn't seem to be any interest or facilities for recycling at all. Mm-hmm. And our waste didn't seem to get recycled. And then it was better when we moved to Singapore and we could recycle, but certainly it wasn't being done by every family. We were almost the exception, making the extra effort to take it somewhere. It wasn't collected from our home necessarily. Mm-hmm. And then now, having moved to the Netherlands, where it's almost a world leader in environmental issues, it's amazing to see the difference. Now we have separate bins for plastic and paper and compost, and very little of our waste goes into landfill. So it's very interesting to see it, to to see that there is differences. And obviously, you know, if you read a bit more about it, you'll see that some of the countries, in places like Indonesia, there's an awful lot more plastic ending up in the wrong places and getting washed into the waterways and polluting the world than you would say in perhaps Europe. And that, a lot of that's about education and about governments implementing good policies. So definitely, I see big differences.
Yeah, I was interested in so the education, you know, and that's something that we can do. You know, we don't have to wait around for government to do it. As families, you know, we can establish our own kind of values and teach our kids to value the earth and also help our kids understand the superpowers that they have in making, as we started to say at the beginning of the interview, starting to make those little changes in our life that can make really add up to make a big difference in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, sometimes, like you say with the education, it's just so powerful. I'm very lucky now that I get to visit schools as an author, and as well as reading the story and sometimes talking about writing, I will spend a good proportion of my time talking about the plastic pollution crisis, which teachers love because they often tend to be teaching topics around this, so it suits them to have this extra input. And I get to share, you know, facts with children that they're not always aware of. You know, for example, every minute they say a truckload full of plastic enters our oceans. There's something like 5.3 trillion pieces of plastic in the oceans at the moment, and they predict that by the year 2050, 99% of seabirds will have eaten plastic, and there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. Unless we turn things around. And children, you know, get so overwhelmed by these facts, but it really empowers them. They really care. And when I watch their little faces as I'm reading the story and they see the three different animals come into trouble with plastic, and they just are so engaged because they really care about animals and they care about our earth, and they know that they're going to inherit this earth and be the guardians of it one day. And it really matters to them. And you know, rather than the book being frightening for them, they do see the message of hope. And by the end of the story, Captain Green shares, you know, the traditional 3 R's of reduce, reuse, recycle. And they go away with that message. And they're always, when they talk about it, they're just bursting with other ideas that they can start to do in their lives and things they've heard about. For example, you know, saying no to plastic straws and using a metal one if you must use one, and, you know, obviously the things we are all aware of, like not taking plastic bags and so on. And it's just incredible as well to hear about the homes in which more and more families are doing things that we mightn't have done 5 years ago. Like they may choose not to buy a plastic toothbrush, but are buying the wooden ones that are now widely available, and things that there's all these lovely, clever ideas that are becoming more mainstream, and it's lovely to hear about families that are doing these more and more. So it's inspiring, but there's a lot of work to do still, obviously.
Yes, fascinating. Here in the beautiful city of Boston, they just passed an ordinance banning those little plastic bags from grocery stores and markets and things like that. And I'm surprised because this, you know, the folks in the city have kind of like just accepted it very enthusiastically.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
because it's been so widespread in the media over the last year, and from everything in the UK, there was a very famous documentary by David Attenborough called the Blue Planet 2. And it's a BBC documentary, and it was so famous when it came out because it was, I think, something that just shocked the masses who were watching it at how bad the problem really was, and how it's not just affecting our animals, but it's affecting ourselves through, you know, the fish that we eat, which are affected by plastic. So, yeah, the message has really gotten out there in the last year or so. So it's good that the message is getting through to people more and more.
Yeah. Well, I love I love the fact that we can use Captain Green and the plastic scene to start a conversation with our kids about choices that we can make around waste and how we can reduce the plastic in our lives and how we can reuse it and recycle it. I'd be interested too to talk to you as somebody who's been teaching all over the world. How important is it for families to read together?
Oh, that's a fantastic question too. I mean, I'm equally passionate about reading as I am about stopping plastic pollution. It's so important. You know, you're obviously being a role model for your child and starting them off by seeing books as being a positive way to spend your time. You know, books teach children so much about the world beyond their own experience. You know, they teach children vocabulary, they teach them to be tolerant and open-minded. It's incredibly important, and to share that together and show them the value of time spent sharing a story. It's about nurturing your kids as well as educating them. It's a great act of love. I was at a wonderful talk by a wonderful UK author called Piers Torday, who writes middle grade fiction. And I met him in Singapore, and he was speaking about writing, and this quote I'll never forget that he said was, being read aloud to is just a great act of love. You know, it's making this time together and sharing something wonderful. And it's holding a book together it's different than looking at the TV or an iPad. Mm-hmm. And you can slow down and take your time. You can go back to a page again if you want to. And yeah, it's the first view of reading that children get, and it starts them off as hopefully lifelong readers and people who will read for pleasure. So yeah, it's vitally important.
Yeah, I love that. Reading with your kids is a great act of love, and I agree. It says so much. That simple act of holding a book together, it's simple, but it really says, it communicates so much to the kids, your values, how much you value them, and how they can start to value themselves. As somebody who's taught around the world, I was surprised the other day to read a statistic that says 48% of kids here in the States aren't read to on a regular basis, and that saddened me and surprised me. Do you find that reading with kids is a value that's shared throughout the different cultures that you've taught in?
Yes, it's definitely a value that I've seen throughout my teaching career. You know, I've also taught in, I guess, schools that you may say might have been a little bit more privileged, certainly in Asia, in that I was, you know, teaching in private international schools where, you know, generally speaking, books were quite valued in most homes, you know, not with some exceptions. So you will see some differences, depending on socioeconomic backgrounds, okay, sometimes, not to generalize. It does seem to be quite valued here in the Netherlands. But, you know, TV is a great pull, and, you know, you've got to, parents obviously got to really, really be enthusiastic to make it work. But yeah, you do see, it does vary, of course. That's a very sad number, actually. I'm quite saddened by that. You know, and obviously it's so important then that teachers have a huge responsibility and to make sure they're making up for it in the classroom. And one thing I remember being taught in one of the many courses I attended as a teacher was, you know, you need to make sure you get the book count up for kids. And that, you know, when I taught, say, children maybe 6 or 7 years old, you were aiming to get 4 books in the day. If you could read them 4 picture books somehow throughout the day, you felt like, great, I'm getting their book count up. And because they may not be getting it at home. And, you know, so teachers can help a lot. And when teachers are really passionate about reading, it's wonderful for their class.
Yeah. It really does, and you know, we've said it before, but I can't say it enough. And we had LeVar Burton was on and talked about the fact that reading really does unlock so many doors, and for everyone, and just giving your child the ability to read and instilling in your child that love of learning and love of reading makes such a big difference in their lives.
It really does, and on their success in life as well, because it just improves their vocabulary and their interest in the world around them. And, and also, one of the reasons I adore picture books is the art that goes with it. Mm-hmm. The story is 50% or even less of it, but all those beautiful pictures they get to look at and seeing the world and what it looks like in different places or for different people or different animals, It's such a delight to be able to see this incredible art right in front of you.
Yeah, and I have to say that the illustrations in Captain Green and the Plastic Scene are really, really cute. They're just fun, and they're illustrations that I know that kids will really connect with.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just delighted at how it turned out. The illustrator, Danny Deeptown, is from the UK, and he is a real nature enthusiast. And I was just delighted that he was the one to illustrate this book. He was so passionate about this theme of plastic pollution and loves animals, and he wanted to do his absolute best on this so that it would reach as many people as possible and have a positive impact. And there's one illustration in particular. It's a double-page spread where Captain Green is listening to Dolphin after he saves Dolphin, and then a whale has come along and a seal and a fish, and it's just this beautiful scene where Captain Green is learning more about the problem, and the other animals are telling him how they have been affected. And Danny has drawn loads of trash spurting out of the whale's blowhole. Uh-huh. And, children just look at this page and they're just absolutely blown away. And their little faces are also just so concerned when they see it. But luckily then it all, works out well by the end, and they feel inspired to help and be little superhumans.
That's awesome.
Which he's a great artist. I'm so happy just the book.
That's excellent. So are there more books in the works that we'll be expecting from Evelyn Bookless?
Yes, absolutely. I work very hard every day on writing stories, and I plan to produce another Captain Green book on a different environmental theme. My publishers for this book would love me to do 3 of them, and I think there's enough environmental issues in our world, unfortunately. So I'm working on a story about climate change. Oh. But I'm taking my time with it, and I really want to get it right. So I kind of dip in and out of it, and I'm kind of not rushing it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the next one of those that I have planned. Because it's such a big topic, and I just want to get it 100% right.
It certainly is a big topic, and I'm really happy that you want to get it right, because so many people seem to just want to make noise about it and not necessarily get all the facts right about it.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. I feel such a responsibility, when you're telling a story like this, and when hopefully it's being used in classrooms, that it's factual and accurate and has the right messages in it.
Absolutely. Now, I know folks are going to want to be able to connect with you and find out more about Captain Green and the Plastic Scene. Also, stay connected with you so they can be the first to know when those new books are coming out. So where can folks connect with you online?
Okay, well, thank you for asking. I have a website, and it is Evelyn Bookless, my whole name, evelynbookless.com. So I keep that very updated. And if anyone wishes to, they can subscribe to my newsletter, and they'll be the first to hear about new releases. And I'm quite active on social media. On Instagram, it's Evelyn Bookless, and on Twitter, Evelyn Bookless. And I have a Facebook author page, which is Evelyn Bookless Author. And I'm always posting updates and press releases and various information, even about plastic pollution, if I hear something really interesting that people may want to know. So please reach out and find me. And I can also be emailed on my website as well. There's a contact page. And I really enjoy connecting with other writers and readers. And I love when people send me pictures or anything that children have done in relation to the story. So yeah. I'm very available.
That's
so please
awesome.
Do connect.
That's and I really do. I've said this before, and I want to really emphasize it. Kids love hearing back from authors, and when you have an author here in the show saying, "Hey, yeah, reach out. If your kid draws a picture after reading Captain Green and the Plastic Scene, scan it and send it to me." I mean, just think how thrilled your kid would be to hear back from Evelyn to say, "What a great job! Thanks for the picture. It's beautiful."
It's lovely for us to know that for writers to know that our books are being enjoyed, and also doubly with my book to know that the message is meaning something to children and that they want to help. That means the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we have been talking today about Captain Green and the Plastic Scene. Be sure to check it out. EvelynBooklist.com is a website that's available at all the usual outlets. Evelyn, thanks so much for joining us from the Netherlands today.
My pleasure. It's absolutely lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Laura Rettinger. She will be here to talk to us about her wonderful book, Aliana Reaches for the Moon. Speaking for Reaches for the Moon, you know, when you become a children's author, you don't realize that there's so much that goes into it. Everybody thinks, okay, I've written the book, I've done the job, I've reached the moon. Actually, you just started the journey. That's right. Being an author means that you also become a bookseller. Yeah, it's crazy to think of, but it really is true. You are responsible to get out there, unless you're like J.K. Rowling and you have this big team behind you. But even J.K. Rowling has to go out and promote her book and to let people know and celebrate their book. Well, we are all about helping authors celebrate their great children's books, to let the world know about their great children's books. And one of the best ways to do that is to be a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it does not cost you a thing. And it enables you to tell thousands and thousands of people about your great children's book. All you need to do is to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button, let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank Evelyn Booklist for joining us today and for reminding us that reading with your kids is a great act of love. And we also want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and thank you so much for always making time to create that great act of love by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.